Yes, so I think about the time Christ returns is when we'll start our end time study. What do you say?
Perfect.
It's perfect. Let me get my notes over here. So we're going to continue this angels thing till we get through this. I can't believe how long this is taking. You're the only class that's ever done this to me. The only one. Well, I think a combination of things in this class. One, the teacher. Two, the cul-de-sacs. Three, any other excuse we can have, like praise team practice, which we need bad. I do anyway. I didn't have those in prior classes, so maybe that's what was distorting how fast I would go through this. All right, now I've got, oh, we are right here. What am I saying? So we're going to open with a rather lengthy scripture that I think it's important for us to read. And that's the Ezekiel 1 through 18. Actually, we could read all the way through. I think there's like 24 verses or something. But I think 1 through 18 we'll do it. Now, again, because we're recording, I'll read it for you. But wow, if you haven't ever read this chapter, wow. In my 30th year, now this is Ezekiel speaking. And he says, in my 30th year, in the 4th month of the 5th day, while I was among the exiles by the Kibar River, the heavens were open, and I saw visions of God. Now, he's with the exiles, so he's over in Babylon. On the 5th of the month, it was the 5th year of the exile of King Jehoiakim, the word of the Lord came to Ezekiel the priest, the son of Buzi, by the Kibar River in the land of the Babylonians. Look at that. I knew it was Babylon. There the hand of the Lord was on him. I looked, this is Ezekiel speaking now, I looked and I saw a windstorm coming out of the north, an immense cloud with flashing lightning surrounded by brilliant light. This sounds like something you get on the Weather Channel. The center of the fire looked like glowing metal. And in the fire was what looked like 4 living creatures. In appearance, their form was human, but each of them had 4 faces and 4 wings. Their legs were straight, their feet were like those of a calf and gleamed like burnished bronze. Under their wings on the 4 sides they had human heads. All 4 of them had faces and wings, and the wings of one touched the wings of another. Each one went straight ahead. They did not turn as they moved. Their faces looked like this. Each of the 4 had the face of a human being, and on the right side, each had the face of a lion, and on the left side, the face of an ox. Each also had the face of an eagle. Such were their faces. They each had 2 wings spreading out upward, each wing touching that of the creature on either side, and each had 2 other wings covering its body. So each one of them has 4 wings. Each one went straight ahead. Wherever the spirit would go, they would go, without turning as they went. The appearance of the living creatures was like burning coals of fire or like torches. Fire moved back and forth among the creatures. It was bright, and lightning flashed out of it. The creatures sped back and forth like flashes of lightning. As I looked at the living creatures, I saw a wheel on the ground beside each creature with its 4 faces. If I could draw, we'd have quite the picture up here right now. With its 4 faces. This was the appearance and structure of the wheels. So now it's going to describe the wheel that each had. They sparkled like topaz, and all 4 looked alike. Each appeared to be made like a wheel intersecting a wheel. Ooh, well, that'll bend your mind. As they moved, they would go in any one of the 4 directions the creatures faced. The wheels did not change direction as the creatures went. Their rims were high and awesome, and all 4 rims were full of eyes all around. And the closest thing I can come to there is a gyroscope. Wheel inside a wheel, and you, wherever you want to go. The rims were high and all 4 eyes around. When the living creatures moved, the wheels beside them moved. And when the living creatures rose from the ground, the wheels also rose. So these angels aren't attached to the ground, and the only way they get around, like a handicapped person, they have to have their wheels, and it's not like that. Wherever the Spirit would go, they would go, and the wheels would rise along with them, because the spirit of the living creatures was in the wheels. When the creatures moved, they also moved. When the creatures stood still, they stood still. This is the wheels now. And when the creatures rose from the ground, the wheels rose along with them, because the spirit of the living creature was in the wheels. And I'm going to keep reading for a minute. Spread out above the heads of the living creatures was what looked like something like a vault, sparkling like crystal and awesome. Under the vault, their wings were stretched out one towards the other, and each had 2 wings covering its body. When the creatures moved, I heard the sound of their wings like the roar of rushing water, like the voice of the Almighty, like the tumult of an army. When they stood still, they lowered their wings. Then there came a voice from above the vault over their heads as they stood with lowered wings. Above the vault over their heads was what looked like a throne of lapis lazuli. It's a gem, and or a stone that could be made into a gem, I guess is a better word for it. Anyway, and high above on the throne was a figure like that of a man. I saw that from what appeared to be his waist up, he looked like glowing metal, as if full of fire, and that from there down he looked like fire, and brilliant light surrounded him. Like the appearance of a rainbow in the clouds on a rainy day, so was the radiance around him. This was the appearance of the likeness of the glory of God. When I saw it, I fell face down, and I heard the voice of one speaking. Yeah, I'm not going to worry about the rest of that. There we are. Kathy, do you need one?
What?
You got them there? Oh, you have a whole box right behind you there. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Wow, wow.
I mean, the visual should get as reading impossible to have a loophole.
Yeah. Yeah. First, you've got, 4 angels that 2 of their wings are like this. And their wings are touching the 2 angels that standing beside them on each side, and the one behind them, and then this is between the others. And then they've got 2 other wings that are these kinds of wings. Oh, by the way, they've got a wheel attached to them at the bottom, which can go anywhere they go, but they can only go straight ahead. What? All right, you 3, I'm going straight ahead now.
The teenager who was interested in NASA and aerospace and all that stuff, this was fascinating when I found it.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Oh, there's a lot of neat things in here. The teenager on some kind of medication probably would also find it fascinating. Wow, 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 wow. Yeah. And that's why I wanted us to see this. You can find all manner of interpretation, all manner. I wouldn't even attempt it. What is true, and it's what it says in the scripture itself, it's revealing the glory of God. The thing I take away from it, God said, nobody can see my face. Now we know why. Would we even understand what we were looking at? The angels, the heavenly realms where the angels live, where God is, Christ is, all of us that put our faith in him is such a different world. This makes probably perfect sense to them, but it doesn't to us. And I've said before, and we'll get into it here again, the angelic world is a specific world, well-defined. God doesn't do anything in chaos. All well-defined, just like we are here now. We don't think the earth is well-defined, but the laws of physics, and then there's an order to things, and you can't be a man one day and a giraffe the next unless you're, never mind, get into politics then. We're a world of order. So is heaven. but the order in their world is so different from ours that, wow. And I may have used this illustration once before, but at my age, I'm allowed to do it again. If you've ever gone out to sea and then went snorkeling, it's just blue. The first time it happened to me, it just blue water, calm seas, gorgeous day, not a cloud in the sky. Oh, marvelous. You hit the water, you put your face down. It's an entire different universe, different laws, different rules, different everything. And the further you go down in that universe, it even changes as you go. You get into really, really deep water. To me, that's heaven. The other one that occurred to me one time, I spent a lot of time in Washington, years and years. And you get around in the DC area on the Metro, which is a submarine. Sometimes. It's basically a subway system, although like a lot of places, there are sections of it that are above ground. And one of those is Arlington Cemetery. And I did a lot of stuff in the Pentagon, and then I'd have to leave the Pentagon, go somewhere else, and whatnot. You get on the orange line, the purple line, the blue line, the pink and white line, whatever. The peppermint candy mountain. No, never mind. And I'm coming from DC. I'd been in for fairly interesting meetings in DC, and I'm headed back now. And you're underground, but particularly you got to come under the Potomac and all that. You're under that thing for quite a while, just sitting there watching the little black and white lights go flying by. And I'm looking at the window for no particular reason, because it's just black, it's just tunnel. And all of a sudden, right, when you get to Arlington Cemetery, the subway comes up out of that hole, almost like a roller coaster ride. Oop, vroom. We broke through that black, and all I could see was this bright, I almost couldn't see it, it was so bright, blue and white sky. Just was overpowering, just brilliant. I thought that's what going from death into life is. You're in this dark tunnel, and the next second, you're there. And when you get there, this is one of the things you're going to see. Wow, can you imagine? But all the reading I've ever done on this over the years, people try to associate the animals with something, the human faces with something else, and so on. I don't know. Nobody knows. This is the vision that he had, where God basically was sealing him as a prophet and showing him his glory, that this is who you're going to represent. But for this study, there are mentioned very specific, there's very specific things here about these angels, and that's what's going to get us moving further ahead, I hope, here. So for this group, of course, we've already talked about how Wes can't draw. Yeah, and that's an angel if I've ever seen one. 4 wings, 2 of which are in this position, and 2 which touch the wing next to them. Where else do we see that described in the Bible that would be fairly readily recognized by everybody? I'm sorry? Yeah, Ark of the Covenant. There's 2 angels, I believe it is, one here and one there, and then I think there's even one on each side, if I remember, that's touching the corner angel. Boy, that reminds me. Another cul-de-sac that came to mind. See, when you have a PhD at my age and nothing else to think about, weird stuff flies in at any minute. We're going to come back to that. But yeah, the Ark of the Covenant had these. And what we know about, I'm just going to draw a square because what we know about, so visualize, you're looking down. So you've got this angel here, and then you've got this angel here and so on. And of course the BMW wheels on each one of them. standing here. And in the center of this is what? In other words, if the angels are facing out, what's right behind them? Okay, it starts with a G. The middle initial is O. Wow, that was tough. Yeah, the Trinity is behind them, and it says there a figure like a man on the throne, probably referring to Christ, pre-incarnate Christ. So they are surrounding the throne of God. Now it says they can move like this, only forward. Of course, what you can do if you had that, again, you figure a gyroscope, you could make this whole thing go this way or that, it would kind of roll, if you will. This is showing you that God's all powerful, all knowing, all this, all that. You get into theology, but not today. So they're around God. God's on his throne. And then it says the wheels are there because when God wants to move in a certain direction, they move with him. We tend to think of God's throne as a permanent place, but this implies that oh no, God moves around. Thank the Lord that he does. Of course, that's the other thing. It's hard for us to understand. God's everywhere at all time present. Where's he moving from and to then? But in any case, so this is God. This is the throne. These four angels are there, and you're going to find out in a little bit. They're called cherubim, or is it cherubim? No, I think it's cherubim. They're called cherubim. One of the things that we'll discover as we whip through the remaining parts of this is there are several kinds of angels. These guys are the number one. This is as angels go, there's only one thing higher than that, and what are they? In fact, I think we only know of two, I believe. Archangels. And they're up here. And if I remember right, was Satan an archangel?
Yeah, he'd have been the third.
Yeah. And then you got Michael and
Gabriel.
Correct. Thank you. We only had three of those. And it doesn't sound like we have too many of these just yet. So these are all very special. And will he fall over? Will he do as Tim Conway and just roll over on the floor? Yeah, they're very special. But we're going to find out here in a little bit. There's a lot more angels. Yeah, so that's all I wanted to see from. Oh, that's another thing. So they're described physically. There's a physical description given. And what else does it say about the angels there? When the Spirit goes, they move with him, if I remember right, or something to that effect. Yeah, the wheels rose along with him because the spirit of the living creature was in the wheels. There's moving along, spinning along. They can move at great speed. What? Horrible handwriting. So they have a physical appearance. They can move at great speed. Well, that's interesting. Why is that odd? What do we tend to think of angels in terms of movement? They're here and then they're not here, right? Yeah, they can be quick. They can also go through walls and that sort of thing. Move at great speed. That's a physical thing. We're talking about something physical. Pardon me?
Warp speed.
Warp speed, yeah. Well, it turns out not quite so much because they can get interrupted. The story of Michael the Archangel wrestling with Satan over, was it Moses' body, if I remember right. And it took, was it 2 months or so? I couldn't get the answered prayer right away because I was held up trying to get down there. Implies it takes a while even for angels. I have no idea why. It's another one of those laws of physics we'll talk about when we're up there. What do you mean gravity? But it's interesting. They're described as having great speed. We'll see some more examples of that. And they're physically described. And all their power comes from God. We had that, I think, wasn't last week, but a couple of weeks back. They get all their power from God. So they're physical. Well, they're physical described anyway. Well, I used an example too a few weeks back. Night vision goggles or microscope or suddenly things that we had no idea were among us. We realized when we looked at the first germ in a microscope, or microbiology, and there's another whole world there. It's not like our world, but it's there. And I think what we're going to find when we get to heaven is that angels have a physical appearance, and we will have the lens to see that. That's you can write that down. It's from the first book of Opinions by Wes. But I think that's we too much the Casper the Friendly Ghost or this wispiness and whatnot. There's too many physical descriptions of angels in the Bible. I suspect they are, well, that may be one of these. We've read it once before. Was it Elisha? They were surrounded, they were coming to kill him and his helper, I guess you'd call it. Yeah. And Elijah wasn't worried about it at all. And he prayed to God. He said, give my servant the vision you've given me. And the servant saw it was an army. Huge army, chariots. I mean, all this physical description. I think it's a physical world. We just don't have the vision for it yet. But when we get our cataract surgeries up in heaven, we'll be able to. Then we'll see clearly. Paul said. But that's what I wanted you to see from this Ezekiel thing, is that it's very physical. These guys are the top of the heap. These cherubim. Oh, and that's what I was going to talk about for just a minute. I don't want to get in too much into politics, but I can't pass up on this one. Did I draw it up there? Yes. Anybody have any idea what that is? And no, it's not a witch's hat. Try to do a little better job, but it's not going to look much better to you, I don't think. I'm sorry?
A sickle.
A sickle? Okay. Yeah, if it was good. Suppose I put an animal head right about here. Ah, thank you. So, why would a horn come up in Wes's mind during the political season? Okay, it's an animal's horn. Well, you can make, yeah, that's true. I didn't talk about that part. This
Horn
here.
represents strength or power.
And again, Wes can't draw. It's not a pool table. The heck with it.
The horns on the altar.
Yes, thank you. Oh, you went. Next time we play, my partner right here. The horns on the altar. Why would the horns on the altar come up during a political season? Oh, you're going to love this. This is the twisted mind of Wes here. Well, we could do that. There's some candidates we probably want to do that too. No. So, horn, a symbol of power, and we'll get into all that in end times. But they were on these four corners here. What happened if somebody went up and grabbed one of those horns?
On the altar.
Mm-hmm.
They die. They die.
No.
Sanctuary.
Sanctuary city. The horn, they were claiming sanctuary in this case would have been Jerusalem, could have been Shiloh or Shiloh before that. They were, and there was laws all written for them about there would be city. In fact, all the way back, Adam and Eve. Then who next? Cain and Abel. And Cain slew Abel, and what did God tell him? He's going to cast him out of the garden. And he said to God, what?
More than I can bear.
Well, they'll kill me.
Yeah.
And God said, no, there are sanctuary cities. And you go to this place, they won't bother you, and you stay there, and you'll be all right. Sanctuary cities go all the way back to Adam and Eve. And I'm not going to get into the politics, but just remember that when people are talking about it going forward. And the interesting thing about sanctuary in the Bible, bad people, I say bad, people who had sinned and were being, like Paul was trying to persecute anybody that was killing, or was trying to persecute anybody that was saying Jesus was the Messiah. They could run to a sanctuary city and not be touched. And this was the case with, like I say, from Adam and Eve on through. A lot of discussion today about sanctuary cities. And of course, what they're doing there is they're tying it into the border and things of that nature. And I think we've lost the meaning of sanctuary cities, and that's it for politics for the time being. But this is what happens when an airhead PhD is watching somebody's political speech, and I go, wait a minute, who put a horn there? And what was it put there for, pal? All right. Let's get back here where we belong now. Yeah, we actually got that far before all the wheels fell off. It's almost, wow, we got through Ezekiel and it's almost time to dismiss. Where the heck are we here? Too many notes. Yep. I thought I had. A mark here. Yeah. Oh. Yeah. So we'll take one more verse. Love this, being an accountant and all. And we're going to look at Hebrews 12:22. And we're going to talk about numbers for a moment. Well, we ought to be in the book of Numbers then, if that was Hebrews 12:22. And I have to quit putting the pastor on the spot over here, or he's going to expel me from worship. Because, oh, well, he does it to me during the, so it's an even match. Hebrews 12:22. But you have come to Mount Zion, to the city of the living God, the heavenly Jerusalem. You have come to thousands upon thousands of angels in joyful assembly. And we still can read a couple more. We're down 1 Kings 22:19. Micah continued, therefore, hear the word of the Lord. I saw the Lord sitting on his throne with all the multitudes of heaven standing around him on his right and on his left. Psalm 68:17. The chariots of God are tens of thousands and thousands of thousands. The Lord has come from Sinai into his sanctuary. Now, somebody do the math on that one.
Oh, but yes, it's the world.
Yeah. You just, there's no way to even count them. 2 Kings, Elijah prayed, this is the one I was telling you about. And Elijah prayed, open his eyes, Lord, so that he may see. And the Lord opened the servant's eyes, and he looked and saw the hills full of horses and chariots of fire all around Elijah. And what I like about the Psalm 68 talking about chariots, and this one, again, we're being given physical descriptions. You can't count, there's 10,000. Well, you must have some way of knowing that you can see each one in order for you to know that it's 10,000 and not just a cloud or some undefinable thing. And Daniel 7:10 says, a river of fire was flowing, coming out from before him. Thousands upon thousands attended him. 10,000 times 10,000 stood before him. I think that's a billion or better, or is that a trillion? 10,000 times. The court was seated and the books were opened. And we will get to that when we get to end time study. Matthew 26:53. Do you think I cannot call on my Father? This is Christ talking to Satan. And he will at once put at my disposal more than 12 legions of angels. And I must confess I've forgotten how many's in a legion, but it's a lot apparently. Is it 1,000?
Roman legion.
Was it? Okay. Yeah, I was never in the Army. I never understood the battalion, platoon, squad, division thingamabobs, Company A and all that business. Yeah. So anyway, and Revelation 5, and then we will stop, 11 to 12. Then I looked and heard the voice of many angels, numbering thousands upon thousands and 10,000 times 10,000. They encircled the throne and the living creatures and the elders. When we get into end time study, there is a lot going on around this throne. But worthy is the Lamb who was slain. In a loud voice they were saying, In a loud voice they were saying, worthy is the Lamb who was slain to receive power and wealth and wisdom and strength and honor and glory and praise. And we will definitely get to that in the end time thing. One last cul-de-sac for a second. I think I told you, Sherry and I were fortunate or blessed or whatever to have a private audience with Pope Paul VI. And in fact, we spent 2 weeks in Rome as guests of the Vatican. And they hauled us all over the place. Every basilica, all your neck hurt. I don't know if you've been to Rome or not, but all the artwork's on the ceiling, or it's on the floor, or it's on the walls and the ceiling and the floor. Incredible. But one of the things that was nice about it is they scheduled the visit during Pentecostal Sunday, which is one of the few masses that the Pope actually leads. So we were going to get to be in the presence of the Pope and all this, which was a big deal to Sherry. To me, it was interesting. It was more a out-of-body experience, I think, for Sherry at the time. When you walk in, have any of you ever been in Sistine Chapel, the Vatican, any of that? But just going through all those big doors in the front, and the costumed Vatican Army guy that opened the door for us, and it just takes your breath away. I think it's is it David's statue on the right of it as you go in, I think, and where they've rubbed his foot almost completely. It's like a marble statue, and it's been touched by so many people that the foot's smooth. I don't think you can even see there's any toes on it anymore. Breathtaking. And this altar down at the other end, which has been in a ton of movies, and where the Pope stands and a big gang of people up on this massive thing. It's incredible. But then down another level, before you get to the floor, is another level. And this is where the high-ranking bishops sit and all of this business. And then they had, on the floor, they had another level, and it was visiting dignitaries. The time we were there, it was some group from Ethiopia, all in their Ethiopian attire and all of that. It's incredible. The Pope was like this big. By the time you get done with all the stuff they have around, he's up there. Hey, what you doing up? No, that's it was just an incredible experience. And when I read about what's going on around God's throne, it gave me a little bit of an idea that man, there's going to be a lot happening around God's throne because He's God. In addition to the billions of us that'll be out there worshiping Him. Incredible experience. Okay, so I'm going to mark start here next Sunday, and maybe we'll get through the next page. Sorry. But I before we leave the angel thing, and I know we've been here a while, I just want us to understand that it's a real world God created when He created the heavens and the earth. It's organized, it's structured. Each of these angels or angel classes have missions to do. They're all individuals. They're not just a mob of clones and whatnot. And we'll close with this. What do all of the angels, good and bad, what do they all have in common other than, of course, God created them? But what do they all have in common when he created them? Free will. Excellent. You can teach next week and I'll sit down for a change. No, that's very good. Free will. So we know they're individuals. This is not just a heavenly spirit or cloud that runs around doing God's things. They have a choice. And of course, the choice has been made. So they're all real. The fact we can't see them doesn't matter. And it's all well organized. Kay Arthur, has a bazillion years ago, has a Revelations Bible study. At the beginning of it, she talks about being out to the airport and getting up in the control tower and looking down on what you can see from a control tower. And she said, it's chaos. Little buggies running around, little trucks, cars, airplanes taxiing through, He says, but God is in control, just like they're in control in that tower. And it may look chaotic to us, or we may not understand it. God is in control. And believe it or not, even today, and I think in particular, in the Middle East right now, God's just moving in mighty ways over there. I just wish they'd recognize that and not tell me it's a coincidence or was an accident, or that's just me. Let's close with a word of prayer. Father, be with us this morning now as we continue to worship. Those of us on the praise team and the pastor lead that worship. Father, that we may lift you up and that everything we may do this morning would glorify your holy name. And so, Father, we just trust this morning to you and pray these things in Jesus' heavenly name. Amen.